All right. Let's kick off the meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome everybody. Start with the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Also.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
I have a question for number 6.
Okay.
Oh, we're rescinding that. That is not someone we generally have an annual contract with. It's somebody who we have used for independent evaluations before, but it's not somebody that the district typically retains.
Okay, just so why did it come across as something to be annual?
That's probably something we should talk about in the executive session.
Okay. And then my other one was 25. And is that is for the remainder of the school year? Okay,
Yes.
okay, thank you.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? All right. Under new business, we have a donation. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Comments, questions?
Fantastic.
Very
Thank you very
nice.
much.
Yeah, thank you.
That's
MEF.
incredible.
All in favor?
Hi.
Any against? All right. Board president, vice president reports. This is, kind of the end of the year with, what dinners, and it seems like this year everything has been moving around, so I really don't have anything to talk about with Dutchess County School Board. I did go to the award ceremony, senior award ceremony last night. And it's one of the things that, I don't know, makes me thankful for being a part of Millbrook. You never hear, in bigger schools, you hear, this one gets a lot of cheers, this one does, nobody, maybe somebody claps their hand, but that's it. Our kids are all over everybody. I mean, it really is just one of the best parts of this job is getting to do those things, but it's because we're doing them with Millbrook kids and the way they treat each other. So, just so impressed with, the students and, anyway, that's really all I had to talk about. Chris, did you have anything?
Nothing other than, congratulations to the seniors. We won't have a meeting before graduation, so enjoy it.
Yeah. All right. Next is John.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just want to thank the entire facility staff for assisting with all the end of the year school activities. We got a lot going on and the guys are really working hard. Whatever anybody needs, the guys are right on top of it. We replaced the ground lights that shine up towards the flag poles at the athletic field. The old ones that were original when the field was built. With all the snow and the rain, they shorted it all out. So we purchased all new lights that shine up on the flags because they were up all night. We also purchased a Millbrook CSD flag to accompany the U.S. and state flag on the athletic field. We have 3 poles up there. So we got the Millbrook, American flag, and the state flag.
Nice.
And we applied all new blazer letters to the building's windows up here on the 3rd floor where the locker rooms are. The old ones were all peeling and falling down. They were tolerable, so we purchased all brand new ones. And that's about it. Got any questions?
You guys getting all geared up for, when this swarm of contractors come on?
Yeah, we've been meeting with the contractors. They've been coming and we've been assisting them the best to our knowledge. There's a lot of things they don't know about our buildings, so like things in the tunnels and all other things, but we're ready. We're ready for them.
Very good. Any questions for John?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good year, John. Thank you. All right, next we've got Mr. Hamel.
Yes. Okay, spring sports season, again, a success. Can't say enough about maintenance department. We had no delays off the baseball field. We had a lot of work to be done on that this spring. And John and the guys did a really nice job with that. Again, a thanks to the bus company as well. Another seamless season where, Jen Cardinal does a great job and the bus drivers are excellent. We have very few mix-ups. They're always amenable to schedule changes and just makes everything work. So I have to say a big thank you to her again, like I always do. So in terms of our participation, it was a very good spring. Total of 141 student athletes competed. The varsity and JV levels, and mainly the varsity level, we had a couple of mergers that went through that we worked on. The first one I'll mention is the girls flag football, which was our inaugural season. We had some hiccups early and bumps in the road, but by the end of the season, the girls had really improved. I think it was a really successful start to a new sport. And additionally, our girls varsity golf team in their second year had like a very successful season. They won their division. We had some girls that advanced on to the sectionals. So that, shout out to Dan Funk and also a big thank you again to the Millbrook Golf and Tennis Club because they've given us access to the club and practice facilities. And, they even help us out indoors. Actually, they set up a simulator this year in the gym. Dan worked on that with just a catch net and some golf mats, and they were able to play some courses on the simulator. So that is one thing that I think I'll look for doing this year in the fall. They're really not that expensive to set up, so maybe setting up it's for when they have. The fall, we really have nicer weather. So it's really the start of the spring where it's a real struggle to get them on the course early. So I might look for both programs, but I think the girls will benefit a little bit more just because of the timing of the weather and the season. But if the boys do have bad weather, we'll look to set up those simulators. It might also be something that he can utilize for open gym time when we have gym space during the winter. So I'm going to look to potentially if we're able to invest in a couple more of those simulators and get those set up. We had, I made a mistake on the girls varsity softball. There was actually 5 girls that ended up going over to Weevattuck. Again, that was a success because we had one senior who was able to play her senior year. And then there were, I believe, there's 4 sophomores that went over. So that's a positive. We're hoping that the up and coming 6th grade class is going to infuse some softball players at the modified level for next year. What we ended up doing this year, just staying on the softball subject, for the first time, other than when we did a modified football merger with Weevattuck, we actually merged both our modified baseball program, which we hosted here at Millbrook, and then we also merged the modified girls softball. Because we had 8 or 9 girls that wanted to play softball. We just didn't have enough to field their own team. Weevattuck was ready to go. They had 7 or 8 girls and they had a coach in place and they had everything ready to go. And I was a late ask that I asked Rob Scott and the Weevattuck administration for that merger, and they just accepted it. And we were able to put the girls on the bus with the varsity girls for softball and get them up there every day. And again, very challenging in terms of the transportation part. And I will mention that just again for transportation, the mergers and the transportation and the job that First Student did with that was really, really outstanding. I mean, they did a great job. And I was happy that those girls, because we were on the verge of canceling the softball season. And then for modified baseball, when I asked for the merger for the modified softball, we had only 9 or 10 boys, and he had, I want to say 4 or 5 boys that wanted to play baseball at the modified level. So he was able to bust them down, and they were able to play on a modified season with us. Again, not ideal, not what we always want to have, but for the sake of what we have going on and in terms of 2 districts working together, I couldn't be happier with the way that that's going, because it's not always easy. when you're doing these types of mergers. So I do want to just mention MEF and their help with securing the donation for the football equipment through the Dyson Foundation, and I think that's a huge thing. We're getting top of the line helmets from a safety standpoint for our football players at the varsity level with the high impact and all that. So just really a great thing. In addition, we're able to order, as with part of that donation, we also ordered some new shoulder pads as well. So
That's
that
just for the varsity team, or is that?
so yes, we will push down the brand new helmets that we had this year. So, and really it will be nice to have more helmets, because from a safety standpoint, sometimes it's also the fit of the helmet. So now the modified level will have, we actually sized all of our players for the new helmets that are coming in, and then ordered extra sizes in each size. But the kids actually were sized for the helmets so that they will fit properly, and that will be, safest moving forward. And our modified kids will not maybe potentially have to wear. I mean, I typically will try to order a helmet if the size is way off, because of from a safety standpoint. But now those kids should have no issue with finding a helmet that's going to be a perfect fit for them from a safety standpoint. I just a step back. I just also want to mention our coaching staff, and really for the whole year. As an athletic director, having the staff that we have, I mean, our staff is really wonderful in terms of the coaching staff, and I can't thank them enough, like in terms of what they do on a daily basis here. And also we had, a hiccup with the flag football staff. Our coach that I had lined up had backed out a week before, and Brianna Jimenez actually stepped up and was able to do that. And I also want to mention Colin Wolford. Colin Wolford, who is one of our football coaches in the fall, and also coaches our varsity girls basketball team. Really, he came in and really helped Brianna out. And I mean, put in a lot of his own time, and the girls responded well. And it was a really nice, a nice thing for him to do. And I just want to make sure that I mention Colin and what he did for us this spring with that girls flag football team. Okay, so in terms of so our intramurals programs continued. We did pause the Alden intramurals because Brianna was running that. So when she stepped in to do the flag football, we had a pause on that, but that's going to hit the ground running again in the fall. Middle school intramural program went right through. Colin Wolford had stepped in actually as a long-term sub for Joe Carbone. And he was able to run the intramural program through and pick up with what Joe was doing with that. Student Athletic Council, we ended up pushing our carnival back to the fall. It was just trying to find a date this spring and get it going. And I spoke Principal Andrew at Alden Place, along with Rick Sipe, and we just decided that potentially the fall is going to just be a better time to do something like that. So we will have a new council in place at the beginning of the fall, and we'll get going on that right off the bat for next year. We just opened recently the intent to participate for fall sports, so we're trying to get that word out, sending emails out to the families. I'm probably going to email all of this year's participants off of the family ID, in addition to the district-wide emails that go out to every single family. We also have announcements that are on in the buildings. So we just want to get a feel for what we have in terms of numbers. So far, we're not even a week in, and I think we're up to 80, which is a good sign because kids and families are signing up. But there's still going to be a push. I think our number, we want to get to upwards of 107. Typically, the fall is a very high participation level. So typically, I think we're 170, 180, 190, anywhere in that neighborhood. And we do anticipate in the fall our varsity football merger with Weebatuck. Again, this is contingent on our numbers and Weebatuck's numbers. If our numbers are really, really high and, it's not conducive for us to have a merger, it's a conversation I'll have to have with Weebatuck, depending on how many student athletes that they're going to be able to send down. I just don't know exactly what it's gonna look like, but the anticipation is that we will have that merger in place where Weebatuck is sending their varsity football players down, and we'll also look at the modified level again. Modified is challenging in terms of the mergers. The varsity level sometimes is much easier just because the student athletes are older and it's an easier adjustment for them to make. And sometimes with the modified athletes, it's more difficult. But in order for those kids to have a season and play, we'll do what we can to make that happen if we have to merge again at the modified level for football, like we did last year. And then varsity girls soccer, we are also looking at having that merger in place again here, hosted at Millbrook. So this fall, we'll be hosting all of the mergers. So once all of our numbers are in and all of that, we'll be throughout the course of the summer, I'll get the paperwork into the section and then be asking for potential approval from the board for those mergers. I think that's about it for me. I don't have much of anything else.
I personally, I've been or I was a skeptic on this mergers, but I've only been to, a few different sports, but I'm amazed at how, like, you almost can't tell who's Weebatuck or who's Pine Pine or who's Millbrook. I mean, the way they treat each other, it really.
It's a testament to the kids that we have, our kids here, and the way that they accept all the students that play on the teams. And we have so many instances here with our student athletes where I have the same feeling that you're having about the mergers. But even as an overall picture, I think that's one of the things that is special about Millbrook and the kids that we have here. They're accepting of all the kids that come out for the sports teams, and
I just think they're great. I mean, the end of the year for soccer, when our girls were like handing flowers to the Weebatuck seniors, it was like, it was amazing to me. Now, if you could just explain the rules for flag football. What do you mean? What are you doing? And then I realized that's a rule and I'm not supposed to be talking like that.
So apparently those rules, because it's a fairly new sport, they're like kind of fluid.
Yeah.
So, and then it's like, it really is to a point where some of the referees show up and they're calling it a certain way, and then other referees show up and so it's a little bit of a challenge. And that happens sometimes at the modified level as well with all sports. They sometimes change how many quarters we play, how that setup is, but that was a little challenging.
But it was, and they look like they were having a blast. I mean,
Great sport.
I was kind of like, I don't know about how good that, and it was fun to watch, and you could tell they were just having a good time. Excellent.
Great addition, no doubt. Yep.
Right. Any other questions?
I had a couple questions.
Sure.
For the helmets, that for the students who are sized, are those reusable or
Yes.
they follow them throughout the sport or?
Yes, so what happens with the football equipment, at the end of every year, those helmets, by law, by New York State ed law, have to go out and be reconditioned and certified. So, when they come brand new, they're already certified. So all of the helmets that we used last year were sent out to a company, reconditioning company, and this happens every year. They're recertified, they're checked for safety, checked for cracks, all those things. And then they have a lifespan of, I think it's 10 years. We actually, some of the helmets that we just replaced were from an initial donation from the Dyson Foundation and MEF. I don't think it was MEF. It might have been just the Dyson Foundation at the time. So I think that, we did the best we could to replace the helmets that were kind of aging out. But now we're going to be good for, 8 to 10 years on some of these helmets, because this will only be the second or third year that the newest helmets that we've gotten are going to be put into play again. So yeah. Yep.
Ms. Jimenez, is she doing the intramurals next year?
So she'll pick up in the fall. She has planning on doing that in the fall. Yep. And then, through the winter, probably do that as well. And then we're going to have to make a determination what the spring is going to look like in terms of the coaching staff and how we'll set that up, for next year, or we'll need to find a replacement for her for the spring. This year it was on such short notice that it just didn't work out.
Is it because it's still like end of the school year or?
I think, to be honest with you, just her moving on to do the flag football, she was kind of leading that program for intramurals. So, and also I'll be honest with you, the weather in the early spring is just really tough too, because, you know, and they do the indoor intramural stuff throughout the course of the winter. By the time the spring hits, we're looking to get outside, but I would say if she hadn't jumped on to help out with flag football, that they probably would have done some outdoor activity as well once the weather turned in the spring.
And my last question is, I'm sure you're aware of the reduction in funds to the capital budget. Thankfully, it's not completely all gone. What do you anticipate with increased funds? Like, how are you gonna make that work? Any ideas?
So I had spoken with the administration about it, and I think that, you know, in terms of looking at just some minor cutbacks here or there on maybe delaying some uniform purchases and things like that. But I mean, overall, over the years, we've been able to do a great job with equipment and uniforms and everything. So it's not going to be a very big dilemma for us on the athletic side. I think we're going to be just fine.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yep.
Thank you.
And I just had a question.
Yep.
I'm not, if I'm not incorrect, I think track is going to state varsity track, some students.
So we
are
do have
going
some
to
students who
state-
qualified for the state level. They're participating tomorrow in qualifiers. So they're
Right,
actually, it's the
right.
qualifiers tomorrow and
Mhm.
Thursday.
Okay, will you keep us posted?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
awesome. Yeah.
We will have something posted on the Twitter site as well after tomorrow and after Thursday.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Superintendent's report.
So my report is there, it's rather long. You're going to see a lot of visitations from school to school. So sixth grade teachers went down to fifth grade to meet with the kiddos. They did a lesson in ELA and math. And then the fifth grade kiddos came up to the middle school to have a quick tour of the building. This is just for now, and the end of the summer, they will come and have much more extensive look around the building and have their schedules and sort of see where everything is. And this was just a minute. And so you'll see that the eighth graders went to the high school to do something similar. So it's just everyone is kind of trying to start bridging for next year. There's lots of articulation meetings that are happening between grade levels, between buildings where support services are coordinating the transition between building to building, and grade levels are talking about looking at, skills and standards that need to be reinforced in the coming grade levels. So lots of that you'll see throughout the report. Our nicest lat tests have been administered. They are sent out to be graded. The really interesting part about nicest lat testing is that's how we determine what our English language learners will get in terms of services for next year. But you can see in my report, we don't get those scores back until August. So when we're planning our schedule, we're just making estimates as to where we think those students will score and kind of trying to determine what their scheduling needs will be based on where we feel that they'll fall. But we don't actually get those hard numbers until August, which is really inconvenient. But that is the state model. And then in the other news section, you'll see a lot of exciting things that have been happening around the district. One of the things that I had a really great time doing was last Thursday, I went with the seniors to Lake Compounce. So it was really fun to see them with their little last hurrah. They were all very well behaved. We had perfect weather. It was not too hot at all. But the sun was out and they were able to have fun. There were quite a few kids who went on the water rides, which was really brave because it wasn't that hot, but they had a great time. And were smart enough to bring a change of clothes and not freeze on the way home. So that was good. And so the one thing that I will plug is, please, if you are a parent of a student with a disability and you've received the parent survey from New York State Education Department, please fill it out. Any feedback is good feedback. And we need one more parent to fill out their survey to qualify, because there's a minimum number that we need. Or we have to repeat the whole process next year. So if you don't do it this year, we're just gonna be asking you to do it again next year. So please, if you've received one, do that. Something really fun you'll see is that part of the end of the year celebration for Elm Drive second graders this year is going to include the color monster. So what happened is the second graders created drawings of emotions that Miss Barnes's art class made them out of ceramics. And then they're going to actually meet the little kiddos that created the drawings, that created their sculptures, if you will. So lots of fun stuff happening around the district. I lead out as many of the events as possible in terms of at each building by date. There are some that are students only. There are some that are obviously, you know, everyone's welcome. So if you're interested, please join us. And then just in terms of advocacy, the Lower Hudson Council, we have created our next steps in terms of the equity in athletics. So right now that is not something, the next step is not something that is public, but it is something that is in the works. We have not given up. We are going to continue to fight to support our athletes. And the Lower Hudson Education Coalition is working with Lower Hudson Council of School Superintendents to go through the list of bills that are pending legislation so that we can decide our advocacy positions and we can start to prioritize those and put our advocacy plans into place in the next couple of months. That is all I have.
Questions?
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right. Elliot?
Good evening. Got a lot here. Some of it was just informational for you to have, so I'm going to go through it, a little quickly, and then if there's anything that you want to, dig into, I'm happy to do so. Just coming into this meeting tonight, we had our first audit prep meeting of this fiscal cycle with our auditors. We welcomed back RBT and Sean Bannon as the lead auditor for us, so we're cautiously optimistic that this is going to be a smooth audit process. We're starting from a really good place with a familiar firm, so all is well on that end so far. Just want to thank the community for supporting the budget. This is our first meeting since the budget vote, so we want to say a huge thank you to everybody that came out and shared their opinions and supported us for next fiscal year with a positive budget vote. As just a follow-up item, we had mentioned previously that we partnered with school aid specialists through NYSBA to dig back into our previous financial statements, previous aid packages, look for any dollars that we may have left on the table. They're working hard to review all of this documentation and try to uncover anything they can to help boost our aid package. We've talked a lot about the state of our state aid and how it hasn't moved much recently, and so we're hopeful that they do find us some money somewhere in their process. From the technology department, our technology plan for the 26-29 cycle was successfully submitted and approved by SED. If you remember the last tech plan, we did a lot of work to create a long-range plan. This was on, right at the doorstep of COVID. We were still formalizing our one-to-one initiative, our classroom technology initiatives. This next 3-year plan is a shorter, more compact continuation of that plan. There's not a lot of innovation in there in terms of technology purchasing. We're just trying to stay in the replacement cycles that we've established in the last plan so that our students get the devices in the same frequency that we've planned out over the last 5 years. Pricing estimates for student devices have come in almost 100% increase to last year. So as you hear about the global economy, the state of affairs, you may hear in the news about chip shortages. It's all being reflected in the pricing that we're getting for next year. So big thank you to Sean Schock, our lead in the tech department, for really digging deep and trying to find some comparable devices that are relatively close to what we budgeted for to maintain those replacement cycles as needed, prioritizing student devices over staff and classroom equipment. So we're going to buy our Chromebooks first. We're going to keep our kids outfitted with what they need, and then we'll spend other things accordingly as we go. Last month in May, we were asked to sit on a panel, a regional panel that was hosted by the Council of School Superintendents to speak about cybersecurity and our work in disaster recovery planning and incident response planning and continuity of operations, continuity of instruction, things like that. So over the past few years, Caroline's really positioned us as a leader in school safety in general. And on the tech side, we're trying to keep pace with that as well. So it was nice to be recognized. It was cool to participate with other districts that are kind of at the forefront of school cybersecurity. And so we're going to be going a little bit deeper into that in the coming school year with some concrete plans that'll start to cross over into specific departments, into the Office of Instruction. We're going to work with Dr. Watkins and her team to understand what it looks like if we get attacked on a random Tuesday at 10:30 in the morning. Like, what do we do with immediacy? What are the first 24 hours, the first 72 hours, the first 2 weeks? What does that look like? And really, set ourselves up to be successful in the event that we have an unforeseen emergency of that nature. Capital project planning, last week on the 27th, we had a walkthrough for phase 1A, just to remind the board and the community watching at home. We went out to bid last month. Our bids are due June 10th. We'll have a public bid opening, June 10th at 3 p.m. In preparation of that bid opening, we invited any prospective bidders to join us on the 27th to walk the facility, to actually look at the building itself. Happy to report we had about 8 different vendors show up, representing window contractors and general contractors that would be doing the linkway reconstruction. So sometimes you plan these walkthroughs and nobody shows up, and we sit there and look at each other for a while. This one was a full house in terms of our conference room, and we had a good group walking around asking a lot of good questions. The construction manager and as well as the architects were on site to lead those conversations, to answer questions. Any questions that came up out of those sessions are going to be answered and posted publicly as an addendum to the bid package that is posted online. So any prospective bidder can benefit from the questions that were asked at the site walks, whether they were present or not. So just to remind everyone of the time frame, we're going to open the bids on June 10th at 3 p.m. We're going to hopefully in the next 5 days thereafter be able to vet out the low bidders, make sure that they're qualified to do the job, that they have the background checks and all the paperwork in order to be awarded the bid. And then hopefully on the 16th, at the 16th board meeting, we'll be presenting bids to the Board of Education to award based on that vetting process and that bid opening. So the intent thereafter is to get going right away in July. Linkway construction will be the first thing done. So they're going to come in July. They're going to level these linkways all the way down to the foundation. You're going to see giant holes where the buildings used to be connected. It's going to look for a while like 3 separate buildings. It's going to be pretty intensive work on the linkways through the summer. That will continue into the fall. So we're hopeful for a December completion on that. The largest lead time item for the linkway construction is going to be the delivery of the elevator cabs themselves. The window package is set to begin roughly September, October, and that's only because there's a roughly 12-week lead time for the window sets themselves. So in preparation, we've identified areas on the campus where we can set up storage containers so they can have, lots of windows delivered in chunks to keep them working. Sidewalk bridges will be erected along the sidewalk on the parking lot side to allow covered access for students to traverse between levels through the sidewalk. The sidewalk has no steps, so it is naturally somewhat ADA compliant while we're under construction. But that is a code issue from SED, so the students have to be afforded a covered and lit walkway to go between sections of the building that's under construction. We'll also be augmenting some of our emergency exits because as we're taking the linkways out of play, we have to have an exit every X amount of feet from every classroom in every direction. And so there's going to be some updates to that as well. And we've talked to the principals about that. Mr. Cabello specifically knows what to expect in terms of the areas that are going to be in play and out of play during the construction process. But it's going to look really busy here come July, hopefully. And after 5 years of work to get here, we're kind of excited to see the project start coming to fruition with physical construction happening on site. So in short, linkways and elevators, July to December, window replacements, September to August, with substantial completion of phase 1A scheduled for October of 27. The rest of that page, I gave you the kind of phase 1B and phase 2 updates. We haven't really started on phase 2 yet. They plan on designing that next summer or starting this summer for next summer's construction. Phase 1B is at SED under review. So they're going back and forth with the architects with notes and feedback. And we're hoping to get that back by the end of the summer so that we can go out to bid for the roof replacement and the mechanical work in this building, the heating and ventilation work in this building as well. And that's going to include some minor updates to the chiller at the high school as well, but the meat of that work is going to be happening here. So the last thing on my list that I wanted to update is our transportation update. So this is all about fleet electrification and zero emissions busing. Now, the board may be aware that the laws recently just changed to punt this requirement down the road 5 years, which is great. However, the foundational pieces of the process are still in place at this time. And part of that is having a fleet electrification plan done to just figure out what it takes for Millbrook to have zero emissions buses. So I put some data points in here to kind of illustrate what that might look like for us prospectively. As you may recall, we have a fleet of 34 vehicles. In order to electrify our fleet of 34 vehicles, it will require 920 kilowatts of power to charge them, which is not including any provision for lifts or repair equipment. So in short, the fleet electrification plan will illustrate that we will be required to bring in roughly 1 megawatt of electricity capacity to the Halcyon Road facility. Just for illustrative purposes, 1 megawatt of power is equivalent to somewhere in the ballpark of 750 to 1,000 residential suburban homes. For context, the district has just under 4,000 taxable parcels in our catchment area across 6 towns, which means, in very round numbers, it will require the electrical capacity of roughly 25% of our homeowners to power a fleet of 34 buses to be charged daily for roughly $0 return on investment. It's not a judgment statement, it's not a value statement, I'm just giving you the math. That is the equivalent of 750 to 1,000 residential homes, 1,000 microwaves at 1,000 watts apiece, 20,000 laptops plugged in and running at the same time, or 10,000 100-watt incandescent light bulbs. It is a ton of power. When I asked for clarification and asked if, like, and not being facetious, like, did you miss a decimal? Are you sure it's a full megawatt? And they said, Mr. Garcia, don't worry. Some districts have a 3 to 4 megawatt requirement for their fleet electrification. So you're not in bad shape. I don't really know what that means, but here we are. So this part of the fleet electrification plan study has to be submitted to Central Hudson. We expect a response from Central Hudson in roughly 1 to 3 months. I'm guessing it's going to be closer to 3 to 4 months before we have a follow-up meeting with our vendors. And just again, for context, this will be done in 3 phases over 7 years. So originally they were going to plan to start in 27, 28. Now they wouldn't have to start until 2032. But it is estimated that it takes 1 to 3 months for Central Hudson to respond to one of these plans. However, once the plan is in place, it takes approximately 2 years from the point of service request to the point of service delivery for each of those phases. And that's why they would be doing roughly 30 to 40% phase in of that power increase over the 7-year period, so that if they start it in 2032, we would have enough power at the facility by the 2040 deadline for fleet conversion. So with that, any questions?
What happens if we just say, it's gonna need a lot of electricity and it's gonna be really hard and it won't work in our district, and submit that as our plan? I mean, honestly, this is the biggest waste of time. They still haven't addressed the other issues with this whole electrification.
The problem is that this is like the law. It's a legislative mandate. It's not at this point a regulation or anything. So we have to follow the law. We all took an oath to do that. So we have to try. We have to try.
Is this New York State law?
Yes.
That's what
And just, again, we're talking about context, right? We know we have a 34 bus fleet. We also know that 3 of our bordering districts have over 100 buses in their fleet. So
Well, one of them has over 200.
one of them has over 200, one of them has 150, I believe, and the other one's probably somewhere in the middle. So, and that's just 3 of our neighbors. We have 3 other neighbors on the other end of the district. So there's some, I think, significant concerns about Central Hudson's ability to generate and deliver enough power for all of these. And that's just our little corner of Dutchess County, right? I asked that question as well, and they said that's part of Central Hudson's feedback. Now, before they punted this down the road 5 years, districts were using these plans as the foundation for their waiver requests because of the lack of feasibility to meet this requirement. So it may not change in the next 5 years. We may still need a megawatt of power that they still can't deliver, in which case, to Perry's point of how, what if we don't? I don't know that we can. And I think that would be enough leverage to say we can't and be allowed not to. I think for us, in very short-term financial perspective, this is actually good news, because with the delay of the requirement, it goes beyond the renewal period of our contract. We had some significant concerns at the cabinet level about this contract either being potentially extended or going back out to bid with this requirement for vehicles that have a 300 to 400% markup over the diesel vehicle equivalent or the internal combustion equivalent. So we were definitely afraid, I'll say, of what that proposal was going to look like, because even the low bidder could have been a 300% increase over the requirement now. Now we have to consider, the other piece that we have to consider is part of our contract right now is we pay for them to purchase the buses. We also pay for the fuel. So I've been asking the question at every one of these planning meetings, how are you quantifying the fuel consumption of these zero emissions vehicles, these charging stations? And they said, well, either the vendor charges you for the consumption or the district basically owns the meter and puts it on our electrical bill. So think about what the electrical bill for Millbrook Central School District will be when our electrical consumption is equivalent to a 25% increase of the electrical consumption of our entire catchment area.
Well, if everyone just shuts off everything electric while the buses are running, you can't microwave your coffee, you can't turn your lights on in your house. And then once the buses are up, we can all go back to work and do our stuff.
I think with all the discussion about advocacy from our superintendent and our community that's supporting us with letter writing for athletics and things like that, we felt it was really important to get this information out there to the board and to the community. These are laws that we can't control how the laws are written, but we might have a say in the noise we make in response to them.
Yeah, and
Right.
in full transparency, it was these fleet electrification plans. I collected them on behalf of the Lower Hudson Education Coalition from the superintendents and the council. And that was what was used for the basis for our petition to the Public Service Commission, requesting the informational hearing. That really generated a lot of movement, and obviously can't say it's directly a causal relationship, but then all of a sudden, after we're not moving on this, we got the 5-year extension on both the front end and the back end. So while these plans do cost money and they have been sort of a thorn in everyone's side to get them done, I do think that there was some value in saying, hey, look, this really isn't going to be as easy as you're saying it's going to be. So I guess there was that benefit to them.
Like, think of the changes in the budget for the past 5 years. Like all encompassing. This is gonna be another 5 years. What is it gonna look like regardless of any of this
Yeah.
electric plus? It's, I
And our
mean,
transportation aid is trending down.
your school taxes are gonna be like up to 50% to be able to afford this. No one's gonna live in New York.
Well, here's the more interesting part of that is that we still can't raise taxes more than the tax
That's a
cap.
good point, yeah.
So I'm not actually sure, right? Even aside from the purchasing, these bus propositions would be a separate referendum. I'm not even certain how we would do that, and because we don't own our own buses, this goes into a contractual expense for us. And so that would be in the general fund budget, and that would be really problematic for us, because we can't raise taxes any more than the tax cap. But all of this is gonna cost more than anything we've experienced in terms of increases.
Tenfold, yeah.
Yeah, and so, I think there's just not a lot of thought as to how this is actually impacting districts, so we'll keep making noise on our end.
Thank you,
Mhm.
because it obviously worked,
Yeah.
We're pushing in every direction.
And these are things that they said they were not moving on, right? So I mean, there is power in being a part of these, councils and coalitions, because you connect with some people from other parts of the state and you're able to really make a lot of movement.
Back to the capital project, Elliot, have you guys figured out, because especially this floor for the 12-month employees, if they're gonna start jackhammering those walkways, linkways, are the folks that work in that area even through the summer? Is that gonna be, do we have an alternate place if it gets too much?
We can, we're giving them day access just for the summer, so that's really just the far end of where our people are, and our business office are on the other side of the building, so hopefully we won't, I don't think they're gonna be demoing both at the same time.
Right.
I think they're gonna do one of them. We have plenty of room around the district to move people if we have to. But thank you for bringing that up, because I didn't say it explicitly. All of this work is gonna be done second shift once the school year starts. So there will be no hammers banging, jackhammering, or any sort of construction noise. They're not authorized to mobilize until 3 p.m. every day. So we'll give them long days in the summer. We'll work around it. as the best we can. But once September rolls around, they're gonna be locked into second shift unless we're out of session.
Thanks, Alex. Any other questions, for Elliot?
Thank you.
Amy?
Yes, thank you. So just once again, our summer session, continuing education, courses are up and loaded on the right side of our website this summer so far. We have the intro to ceramics. You may have seen some posters around the buildings about that Miss Barnes will be doing that. The Girl Scouts is doing a free experience down for the Elm Drive students, so you can read more about that. And of course, the Heart Saver program is back. The Summer Scholars Program, the abbreviated program, is registration has been sent out. We're having a slow roll back. So far, we have about 26 people who've responded out of the 96 families who have received that. We identified students who are already receiving tier 2, tier 3 services for that. And then we're also working with our ENL families to ensure they have access to our summer programming. I had the opportunity to attend a Global Learning Commons virtual event, just learning from others. This happened to be a local school district, Chappaqua, and how they're developing the learning progression, which is simulating what we did the last few years with our computer science and digital fluency learning standards within our curriculum. But it was always great to learn from other school districts. And we'll see how this goes. Our ESSA application has been opened. They haven't announced how much money is in each of the title grants, but the application is open. So I have started working on that initial paperwork, getting the letters ready for our LEA private school partnerships and the collaboration pieces, and then identifying things that had to be removed from the general fund budget that I need to continue. So I'm going to be using the title funds for that. And one of those things being our Schoolitics. We recently just signed on with them. They will be supporting us with our MTSS journey that we've been doing. Each building has been taking on this work very well, but it's very siloed. So the intent is to have this work continue to flow vertically as students move from building to building, so we can see the progressions that students are making. And with that, are there any questions?
Questions?
Thank
Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome.
All right, future agenda items, you know the deal. Do we have any public comments, questions?
What? Didn't even look, Barry. Hold on one second, I'm
I'm
sorry.
getting cocky on it now.
Just wanted you to have something to say to me.
There were no asterisks.
There were none.
All asterisks.
All right. With that, we're gonna propose executive session. Before we go, I just want to remind everybody that any actions that we have to take will be back in public session. So meeting is not over because we're in executive session. With that, do I have a motion to go to executive session?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? All right. Everybody good or?